I want to focus specifically today, and you'll probably find this strikingly short-winded of somebody that talks too much. Open mind. If prayer really can open our hearts, how do we open our minds? One thing I think it takes is to believe. To really deepen your discipleship in such a way that you might start actually and in tangible ways transforming the world, you have to believe that it can be true. I think after not being prayerful, this is like the number 2 thing that churches everywhere do to stifle their ability to actually transform our world, is that we live in unbelief and we don't do anything about it. If you remember a couple weeks ago, I talked about wrestling with your unbelief. Jacob wrestled with God through the night. I think it gives us permission to wrestle with God. I suggested Jacob got off kind of easy, wrestling with God for a night. Because some of us have been wrestling with God for years, or a lifetime. God can handle it. And the times when you find it impossible to believe, God can handle it. But you got to wrestle with it. You can't let it sit there. You can't let unbelief be festering underneath everything you do and expect discipleship to grow. Do you see what I mean? Discipleship does not happen out of unbelief. It's okay to struggle in your faith sometimes, but you got to struggle. You can't just let it go and pretend like it's fine. You got to struggle with your unbelief. I've said to you, I have a vision for our church where it's going to be filled with families. And we even have a strategic plan to get us there. But if, for those of us, including me, that sometimes waver in our opinion that could actually be true, we got to start wrestling with our unbelief. You have to be able to believe. You have to be able to believe that God can do something new and powerful in you. Did you hear me when we were reading from Romans just a minute ago? The Apostle Paul describes a real disciple, somebody living the life of a disciple, even before Jesus Christ was walking the earth, Abraham. Now, I don't know how you mark time or where lore meets historical relevance, but according to the Bible, Abraham and his wife Sarah lived to be crazy old, like 120 years old. And at the end of their life, they still had no children, and God kept promising them that they were going to be the parents of like a nation. They were too old to have a kid, let alone many kids. And somehow they still believed. What seems impossible to you that requires belief that it's not impossible to God? You with me? On some level, we have to shed what this world does, which is tell us that the only things you can actually believe are things that you can touch and smell and lick. Right? We know that the world and our existence is deeper than that. It must be. It has to be. This world doesn't make sense if that's all that there is. And it feels like a pretty empty existence to me if all there is what we can empirically know to be true. The world's got to be better than that. Creation has got to be deeper than that. To see powerful things happen, I have to believe that there is a God that can do powerful things. I contend that the number 2 thing that will keep us from ever being successful in living into our mission to transform the world is to not believe that it could happen. Once we figure out how to be more prayerful, the next step is to believe. Now, specifically, I think the thing that we can be believing is that God can use you, whoever you are. If you got ears on your head and you're sitting in the room, I mean you. God can use you. If God can use Abraham to father many nations when he's 100 years old, God can use you to do just about anything too. So maybe some of our unbelief in the mission of God, at least for our personal lives, is a lack of belief in ourselves. I will contend it's pretty easy to see great people around us and think, boy, God's really going to use that person to do something great, and not see it in ourselves. Don't you know that you're usually your worst critic? I believe God has a mission for you. All of us have an individual thing that God can call us to that can transform the world. And for those seasoned folks in the room, please, please, please don't ever make your age the thing that ruins the notion that God's got something for you to do that will transform the world. Because Abraham and Sarah were 120. I know some seasoned saints in this congregation that do more than I do. And they've been on the planet for 9 decades. It's not an age thing. I know young people that are transforming the world in ways I couldn't imagine, especially when I was their age. Age is not a reason to have unbelief. I believe no matter who you are, God has a mission